What's up, guys? It's your girl, Matt Cox from Maccouture Crafting. And yes, go get your popcorn, go get your soda, go get your tea, kick your legs up and relax because we're going to be here for a little bit. My goal is to inspire people to try new things. I try new things. I'm not scared to try new things. I'm not scared to ruin things. I feel like taking you guys through my process will sometimes have you thinking about a different way to do something, so on and so forth. This was not smart. This wasn't what I did. This wasn't smart. It felt right at the time. I could see the results. I visualized what it could be. No, this right here, this went badly. But I always say I'm going to show you guys because you guys need to see me fail as well as win. So you know it's not always peaches and daisies over here when it comes to attempting new crazy things. A lot of the times it is. This is not one of those times. In my mind, I had been watching so many people tie-dye. I've tie-dyed in the past. I was like, I can do this. I am not impressed. That's not true. I'm somewhat impressed, but people dye fabric all the time. People dye lots of fabric. Some people can get beautiful gradiated shades. Some people can do some amazing things with dyeing fabric. But when you dye fabric and you put it in the quilt, you're totally controlling how the quilt is going to look. It comes from, it's a different part of creativity, the way that you see it, the way that you do it. In my mind, I wanted to take a completely finished quilt and dye it. And the results, it's kind of taking away some of that control. I can't put the red here and the pink here and the brown there. I don't know exactly where it's going to land because I'm not controlling it to that degree. It was kind of a letting go thing for me. Letting go of the expectations of controlling how things were going to happen. So I'm like, I'm going to dye a completely finished quilt. I grabbed the kaleidoscope pattern. Love this pattern. I did it in 2 colors. I wanted the black to stay black in certain areas and the white parts to pick up the color and make, depending upon how you fold it and whatnot, it's going to make this amazing design. It's already called kaleidoscope. Yes, let's do it. Well, that's not enough. God forbid that have been enough, because that in itself would have been interesting. But I thought, no, I'm going to double process this. And what I mean by that is I'm going to strip away some color and then come back and deposit color. So the black, in my mind, the black would have stripes in some kind of way of missing, of areas that were bleached. I've watched people tie-dye their 100% cotton t-shirts. Easy peasy. I chose to use white bright or white out. You don't have to neutralize it. When you use bleach, you have to neutralize it. That was my first problem. Actually, that wasn't my first problem. That was my second problem. My first problem is I wet the quilt. And the reason why I did that is because I wanted the fibers to be open. And I also wanted it to move differently. When you wet a piece of fabric, you can kind of get it to hold its shape in a different way. This quilt is completely finished. I used prepared for dyeing white. Watch the video of me putting together this beautiful quilt that I absolutely destroyed. I used prepared for dyeing white fabric, and I used 2 blacks. They're different blacks, and I know this because of the way that they discharged, which is removing the color from the fabric. One of them had a green undertone. One of them had a brown undertone. They're different. They were not the same. I used 100% cotton thread through it so that it would absorb and not repel. That's another option that you can think about if you were doing this yourself. There are many things that could change the results and things that might get your wheels moving, because bad results are still results. And so this might spark your imagination in some kind of way. I folded the quilt poorly. And this is where the first, this is where the first problem comes up. When I folded it, in order to get a resist, it needs to be done tight. You need to have tight folds, and you need to have, you need to have areas that are restricted that can't touch the dye or the bleach. I should have used kite string. I think, is it called kite string? No, sinew. I think it's called sinew. It's the kind that you can pull and pull and pull. It's used in tie-dye. That's what I should have used. I should not have used my little loose, raggedy rubber bands. Not only were they loose, they were popping as I was using them, and I didn't take my time on the fold the way that I should have. I am one of those, gotta get it done people, and that did not bode me well in this at all, because I did not take the time to pleat it beautifully. If you watch people tie-dye, really good tie-dyers, they take a while to tie off their projects. It takes a while. Don't do this fast. And remember, this has got a layer of backing, batting, and top. So even when I pleated it, I needed to make sure that the back was doing the same thing as the top. And then I made sure to use 100% cotton in the center because I wanted it to absorb. Had I used poly, it would have repelled. And these are things that I was thinking about as I was constructing the quilt. I did not fold this beautifully. So then instead of doing it in my sink, which is stainless steel, which would have been the better place to do all of this, I did it in my mother's house. I don't know what the material is that I was just wasn't smart, guys. Just was not smart. So I prop it up in the sink on some styrofoam cups, and I've got my cake that is not neatly done and it's loose. And I start pouring this whiteout bleach on there. This bleach is a powder. Now, when I saw the man use this, he poured it on there, hit it with some boiling hot water, and the color came out instantly. I mean, instant. Bleach has never worked that quickly, ever. And I thought, oh my goodness, and it doesn't have to be neutralized. So I thought, this is genius. So I sprinkle it all on the top. He said it didn't have a smell. It has a smell. It has a rotten, burning egg smell. I don't know what he had that didn't have a smell, but what I had an odor. And so now I'm stinking up my mother's house doing this random craft project, like a little, just it's bad. So I'm pouring the powder on, and I'm pouring this boiling hot water, and it's not the color isn't coming out. It's not discharging. I'm like, let me pour some more on there. So I pour some more. I try to discharge it. I said, nothing is happening. So I pour some more on there, and I'm pouring this boiling hot water. Now, my mother has a boiling faucet, the faucet that gives you the boiling hot water. I forget what it's called. It's water filler or whatever, pot filler. I don't know. And I'm using that. And I thought, well, maybe the water isn't as hot as it would be if I boiled it. So I tried boiling some water. Bad. So then I was like, well, I kind of got it to lift a little bit. It was starting to turn green on one side. So I flipped it over and I tried to do it on the other side. And I was able to get some of the color to come out. And I thought, okay, that's fine. I believe I put it in my washing machine after that because that smell was just gross. So I threw it in the washing machine, let it rinse, and let it spin out some of the water, because now I know that I have to soak it in soda ash because I have the Persian dyes, which means that they need soda ash to adhere to the fabric. They're water activated. You got to have something in there to bind it. I got my dyes from Dharma. Everybody gets their dyes from Dharma, including cherry blossom. Like everybody dyes their stuff from Dharma for the most part. Dharma Trading, that's not new information. They're nice dyes. They worked really well. This was definitely user error. So bad. It was so bad. You guys, I put the thing in there, rinsed it in hot water, had it spin dry, used a little detergent to get that smell out. When I went to pull the thing out, it was completely bleached. There was no black left in that quilt whatsoever. If you remember, the whole back of the quilt was black. The whole thing. All of that color, gone. So now I've got the world's most dingy looking quilt, because the front has got this green dinge and the back has got a brown dinge. At this point, recording had pretty much been abandoned. I was like, no, this is not happening. I was just, and there were so many other things. I knew I was going to Texas. I had other things that I was supposed to be doing. This was a fail with a capital F. I said, all right, girl, like keep going, push through. You're going to diet anyway. Maybe these will just be, maybe this will still be interesting. So I retie it, but this time I'm like trying to do a spiral cake was just a fail. What I was going for was a spiral that was turning one direction and a spiral that was turning another direction, with the center point being the center of the kaleidoscope quilt. It was great in theory, horrible execution. It was a fail. So I tied it this time. I did just a regular fan fold. It was much easier to control because I've got this batting and the backing in it. Much, much easier to control. It was better. So I tied it off with the same rubber bands and same little raggedy rubber bands that I use in my office. Tied them off. Started to deposit the color. I made up 7 or 9 colors. And I put them in these small bottles. And I thought, okay, this bottle is enough to dye this. This will be fine. And I started using it and I started depositing the color on there. And I noticed that the color was taking. The way that I did it was I put it in, when I initially started the color, I put it in bowls. I added the water. I made like a paste to make sure that it was fully dissolved. Then I added that paste to the bottle, and then I added the rest of the water. And I got beautiful colors, if I'm being 100% honest. They were some lovely colors. It was the colors of the rainbow. Imagine that. But I did not get the color all the way to the bottom, which is where I messed up. So a lot of the color that was, you can see a lot of the original dinginess. It didn't go all the way through the way that it would have had I used a t-shirt, had I gotten between the folds better, had I known what was getting ready to happen. I did not use enough dye, and I had so much dye left over. I tried to do a pair of jeans. We'll get to that in a minute. So I'm folding it, I'm depositing color, and then I realized, oh shoot, I forgot to add, one of the colors is still in the box. I was like, oh, come on, girl. So I tried to add that color into areas. It was so bad. It was so bad. This is why we have to talk about these things. I tried to go back and I was like, well, it's orange. I left the orange out. I said, well, I know where orange goes in the rainbow. So I'm putting it in there and I'm doing the things, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So eventually I finish it and I'm like, well, shoot, I have all this dye left over. I'm going to take a pair of old faded jeans, these black jeans, and I'm going to try to do the same thing. Nope. It would not bleach. The color would not lift from my Levi's. When I say would not lift, I folded these jeans up and the color would not come out. Levi's, what kind of sorcery dyeing that they did, I don't know, but they wouldn't lift. So I thought the same exact thing would happen because shoot, I just did it. So I'm sure this will happen on the Levi's too. Different material, did not react the same. I ended up not letting it go, and I went and got my bleach, my regular bleach. And I have the non-drip bleach, which is kind of a gel. I took that gel, I put it on the Levi's, instantly started to lift. Painted it on there. I had the little fan fold again. I painted it on there. It did lift. And I thought, okay, cool. But it was just on the top. So I have these very thin pieces of color because it didn't penetrate. I did not get it down far enough. Oh, leave it to me. Leave it to me. But the color was, I was able to control it with using that gel bleach. So I was able to do something really cool with the pocket. I lifted one pocket and just the pocket. The rest of the jean is fine. And that came out kind of interesting. Those jeans are not a complete loss. I could see myself doing a few things to them and kind of making them funky, and they'll be all right. You'll see me in them one day because I refuse to take a full L. Like, I did not lose. I will not let this be a full L. But that blanket, no, that didn't come out real well. So I deposited the color, threw them in some trash bags, let them sit in the trash bags for 3 days. Rinsed it, started rinsing it. It takes, again, I want things to go quickly. I rinsed them in my stainless steel sink. It was taking too long, and I was like, no. But what I wasn't going to do is put it in my dryer. Too much to risk. I know people are like, oh, it'll come out. It'll be fine. I cannot have my husband walking around with strange colored stuff. So I was like, no, I'm not going to put it in my washer and dryer. I'm certainly not going to go take it to my parents and put it in their washer and dryer. I'll go to the laundromat. I have been blessed enough never to have to go to the laundromat. I've always had a washer and a dryer, always. I don't know anything about laundromatting. Nothing about going to the laundromat. So I drove to where I knew a laundromat was. I drove to the one next to Hobby Lobby because I figured while stuff was washing, I could go to the Michaels, and there's a Joann's right there, and then there's a Hobby Lobby. So I was like, there's stuff for me to do while this stuff is washing. Should you leave your stuff? No, you shouldn't. By the time I figured out that I needed quarters and all the things, trying to figure out how much it costs, it wasn't simple. I figured that I was going to take a credit card, go in there, swipe my card, punch in some stuff, and it was no, no, and no. This is quarters. This is old school. Who has $5 worth of quarters in there? It's a whole thing. So I do the things, I put it in there, I wash it, then I go over to the dryer, can't figure out, do you know that it is a quarter for 8 minutes? Who can dry anything in 8 minutes? So how many quarters did I put in? Oh, God knows. I don't know. A bunch. This is just such a mess. At this point, it's just a mess. I threw in the jeans. We washed them with my detergent. I put in a color safe bleach, washed it. It's fine. I believe that the majority of the color did come out. Not a problem. Put it in the dryer. I was all excited after I was, hanging out to see what I got. Nope. It was the world's most hideous thing that I took out of there. It's not cute. It's bad. It's really bad. And to think what it looked like originally to what it ended up being, you guys, it's not great. What I could have done differently, I should have done exactly what I did not want to do. The front of that quilt, I should have pieced it, and I should have dyed it after I finished piecing it so that I could control the folds better. I could have tightly wound it, and I probably could have gotten better results. I should actually have used the spray bleach so that it just took off the color on the top. I think that would have been better than using that whiteout bleach. That's the fix for the top. I wouldn't want to center the back, because when you are using a back, when you're having it quilted, and I had mine quilted, you can only be concerned about one side of the quilt, either the front or the back. If she's trying to center it and hoping that it doesn't shift, that's not a thing. So the back design could have still been done, but I should have done it off center on purpose so that when it quilted, however it quilted, it was going to be okay. It wasn't going to be something that I wanted dead center. Using the cotton thread, still could have done that. But the quilt would have already been dyed prior to that. So you just pick a color that goes with it. I swear I told her to use white. I told her to use black on the back because of my idea, but somehow it ended up white. It is what it is. This quilt is an L anyway. Let me know if any of you guys think the quilt isn't that bad. I think it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It's not cute. I could have folded it differently. I could have done some more creative things, but again, I gotta go. I gotta get this video done. Yeah. I might revisit this again next summer, but then again, I might not, because it's insanity. This was an insane idea and it didn't work. But yes, guys, I still suggest trying it. But maybe you just piece the top first and you don't go through and finish the entire quilt. But then I thought the borders, the binding would look so cool if it all just went. In my mind, it was so cool. Don't do it. Don't do it. Let me know if you have any other tips or tricks or ideas, or if you appreciated the fact that I showed you my crazy, because this is how my crazy works. If you'd like to know how to ruin a 3-yard quilt, I'm going to show you guys a couple of more snippets and clips of what it looked like as I was going, because I did record up until a certain point, but after a while I was like, oh my goodness, this is so embarrassing. This is so bad. And I was frustrated. So I kind of abandoned it, but you get the gist. I took a whole quilt. I tried to bleach it first, ended up bleaching the whole darn thing. Oops. So much for that idea. Then I put some more color on it, didn't put enough color on it in certain places. It didn't go all the way through because, it's a quilt, duh. And that's what happened. All right, guys, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Okay, bye-bye. So now we are going to see if this really works. Where's the quilt? So I soaked the quilt, then I threw it in the spinner just to let the water spin out. And the reason why I wet it is because fabric behaves differently when it is wet. And that's the way I want it to behave. The way it would when it is wet. I have moved my cutting table, my cutting mat, not my cutting table, my cutting mat. And now I am looking for center. You know what, we're gonna do this way because we know where center is here. I am looking for center. Here is center, and I'm gonna pinch center. It's about, oh, I'd say about a ½ inch, and we're just gonna lock it with the hemostat, a very large hemostat. And now I'm gonna start twisting it. And I'm going to give it a little encouragement in some places. And right now I'm twisting to the right. And I'm going to pinch and clean up these pleats as they turn. And this is going to take a while, but we're going to keep doing this until I get a cake. And I want them all to be about a ½ inch high. And I'm going to just keep playing with it until I get a cake. So in my mind, this was all going to cake up to some beautiful 1½ inch high pleats. And I just didn't take the time to do that. I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll see. So we have this on this side, but we have this on this side, which is kind of what I'm really after. I've put a couple of rubber bands around it, and now we're going to go try to discharge all this black fabric and see what happens. So I've put this back in the sink, and I'm going to use a product called White Bright. And my sink has a hot water filler on the side, and the water really does need to be super hot for this to work. So let's see what happens. So I have just covered this with this powder, and because this is damp, it is really sticking to what's going on here, which is what I wanted. And now I'm just going to pour hot water over it. Oh, all on the other side of the sink. Can you see it? Something's happening. I'm going to pour more. We're going to do this a few times to see how much color we can get out of this black. Well, thus far we just have a nice weird mess. You can tell that the binding fabric and this fabric are a little different. So this one went to a green base, and this one kind of looks peachy. I'm going to flip it over and try to discharge the other side and see what we get. So I flipped it over, and this one has already started to pull color. Interesting. Don't know what's getting ready to happen, but I'm going to cover it with this white powder and try to discharge it. Wear a mask when you do this too, guys, because there's obviously, you can see the smoke coming out from this whiteout, and you don't want to be inhaling that. So this is what the back of this looks like right now. I think I am going to, I'm playing this by ear. This is totally an experiment. I think I'm going to rinse it and I'm going to undo it, rinse it, and then I will recake it and dye it. Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what kind of results we have with this. I have no idea what has happened. It might be interesting. It might be a total fail. Who knows? And this is what the other side of it looks like. It's green. It definitely didn't come up to any kind of white or anything like that. I wish I knew what fabric which black this was, because we would totally know. This is so interesting. Let's see what we got though. Let's rinse it out, pull it out, look at it, and then see what happens. So the bleaching went very badly. No black stayed. Very, very minimal black stayed. It is this weird kind of green color here. And on the back, actually it's kind of a peachy. It was just a fail. But we're just going to keep pushing because an experiment is an experiment. You need to see your way through. So we are going to keep pushing to the end. I'm about to accordion fold this. I think I'm going to get some different results with that. So I have accordion folded this, and I folded it in half, which means this dye has really got to get saturated down in there. I don't even know if I have enough dye to do the job. I'm kind of over this project, but I'm like, no, you must see it through. So I have fabric reactive dyes from Dharma Trading, which is where everybody gets their dyes from, including Cherrywood. Big secret there, right? It's probably one of the largest dye houses that sells dye out. And everybody gets their dye from there. So that's what I have. And it's fairly inexpensive. They're not as bad as one might think. And I got the small containers. I bought these little containers that the dyes are in from Amazon. I'm hoping that the liquid is thin enough to move through the tips, the nozzles. Hopefully it is. If not, that's going to cause a different problem. And I'm putting on gloves because I don't want to dye my hands. And I've kind of decided how I'm going to dye it. I have a towel down. I have just something lifted so that when I rotate it, it won't be on the towel directly. So yeah, now I'm just going to try to get to dyeing and hope for the best. And then we can move on from this project because I'm kind of over it, as you can tell. You can probably hear my low energy. I'm ready to move on to something new. The colors that I have are light chocolate. Actually, I just diluted the chocolate color, so we'll see if it's actually two different colors. These are chocolate, purple, turquoise, yellow, red, and fuchsia. And I'm going to just start dyeing and hoping for the best. I just don't exactly know what's gonna happen here. Oh, well, we got some splashing, and we should have assumed that that was going to happen. The tip is not actually on, the silicone tip. But at least we know that the color is coming out here.